I was sitting at my kitchen table when the message arrived. The house was quiet in that late-night way, refrigerator humming, the clock ticking louder than it ever does when you're alone. My reading glasses rested low on my nose as I sealed small zippered bags, each one labeled with a grandchild's name in my careful handwriting. Sunscreen, bandages, motion sickness tablets. The things grandmothers think of before anyone else does. Then my phone buzzed. "You won't be joining us. Tanya thinks it's best to keep the trip just her side of the family. You've already done your part by paying." I read it twice. Then a third time. No greeting. No apology. No explanation softened with love. Just a statement, clean, sharp, final. The kind that doesn't argue because it doesn't expect resistance. For 3 years, I had planned this vacation. 3 years of saving quietly, sacrificing privately, dreaming foolishly. Hawaii wasn't just a destination, it was memory. My late husband and I had gone there once, decades ago, when we were young and broke and wildly in love. I wanted my grandchildren to walk the same sand, to hear the same waves that once promised us a future. And now, I was being told I no longer belonged in it. I didn't cry. What came first wasn't anger either. It was something smaller and heavier, shame. The kind that makes you feel embarrassed for hoping. I stared at the phone until the screen dimmed. He didn't call. He didn't say thank you. My son, who once brought me flowers from gas stations because he said even cheap ones mattered when they came with love, had reduced me to a payment method. I looked toward the small travel bag I'd packed for myself. 2 sundresses I hadn't worn in years. A framed photo of my husband. A lavender candle I planned to light at sunset with the children, telling them stories about the man who loved them before they were born. That moment was gone. I had paid for everything, the flights, the villa, the activities, the rental cars. I had called travel agents late at night, asked about soft mattresses and wheelchair access, made sure everyone else's needs were covered. Everyone except mine. I thought about calling him. About asking what I had done wrong. About begging, just a little, to still be included. But I didn't. Instead, I stood up, walked slowly to my desk, and opened my old laptop. The screen flickered to life like it always did, hesitant but loyal. I clicked open the folder labeled Travel Fund. There it was. Every dollar I had saved since retirement. Every sacrifice neatly totaled. Every act of love converted into numbers on a screen. My finger hovered over a small option in the corner. Freeze account. I didn't click it yet. Not because I was unsure, but because I finally understood something. I hadn't been excluded by accident. I had been removed on purpose. And once you see that clearly, you stop asking to be invited. I didn't know it then, but that text message wasn't the end of the story. It was the moment I stopped being invisible, and started deciding who deserved my generosity. The next morning, I woke before sunrise. Not because I had plans, because my mind refused rest. I moved through the house slowly, straightening things that didn't need fixing, folding the same blanket twice. Grief has a way of making you tidy what can't be repaired. Later that afternoon, an email arrived from the travel agency. Final itinerary attached. I opened it without thinking. Flights. Check-in times. Activity schedules. Names. 8 names. Not 9. My name was missing. There was no mistake. No oversight. No secondary booking. I wasn't a forgotten checkbox. I was never added. That evening, my daughter-in-law called. Her voice was bright, rehearsed. "We're almost packed," she said. "Just checking, everything's good on your end, financially." There it was. Not "how are you feeling?" Not "are you excited?" Not even "thank you." Just money. I asked gently if there was anything I should bring for the kids. Snacks, games, something familiar for the flight. She paused. Then smiled through her words. "No, Marilyn. We've got it handled. Honestly, it might be better if you stay home and rest." Rest? As if exclusion were a favor. After the call, I opened the small fireproof box in my closet. Inside were documents I hadn't looked at in years. The travel fund paperwork. My name printed clearly at the top. Sole account holder. No shared access. No co-signers. For the first time since the message arrived, something inside me hardened, not with anger, but with clarity. They hadn't forgotten me. They had planned around me. That night, I didn't confront anyone. I made tea. I sat in silence. And I thought about how easily kindness turns into expectation when it's never challenged. I sent my son one last message. "Let me know if you want help packing things for the kids." It was read. Ignored. That was my answer. I returned to the banking app. The option still waited. Freeze all linked transactions. I pressed it. No alarms. No drama. Just a quiet confirmation. Account frozen. I slept better that night than I had in weeks. They thought the trip was guaranteed. They didn't realize the one thing holding it together had finally stepped away. The morning of their departure arrived quietly. No dramatic sky. No thunder. Just an ordinary morning that felt heavier than it should have. I made coffee the way I always did, standing by the kitchen window, watching sunlight touch the edge of the birdbath my husband had installed years ago. Everything looked the same. I wasn't. My phone stayed face down on the table. I already knew what I would see if I opened social media. Matching luggage. Smiles practiced for photos. A caption that would say family trip without ever meaning me. At 8:19 a.m., the first call came in. "Nathan." I let it ring. A minute later, a text followed. "Mom, something's wrong. The card isn't working at check-in." I read it once. Then I placed the phone back down. Silence had been used against me for years, missed invitations, unanswered messages, moments where I slowly disappeared from the frame. Now, for the first time, silence belonged to me. The calls came faster after that. Voicemails stacked one over another, his voice shifting from confusion to stress. The rental car had been declined. The resort was asking for a new form of payment. The airline desk was having issues. I imagined them standing there, Tanya's smile tight, her parents whispering sharply, Nathan sweating as he tried to stay in control. I imagined the beep of rejection every time the card was run. I did not feel joy. I felt clarity. An email arrived while my phone continued buzzing. Booking cancellation confirmed. The villa was gone. The excursions reversed. The reservations undone. Every charge returned because every charge had been mine to begin with. I closed the laptop gently. At 10:45 a.m., the plane was scheduled to depart. At 10:32, another voicemail came through. "Mom, please. If this is about what we said, we can talk. The kids are here. They are excited. Not I'm sorry. Not we were wrong. Just panic wrapped in urgency. They wanted the vacation first. The conversation later. I stood up, put on my shoes, and went for a walk. The air was warm. Birds sang like nothing important had happened. A neighbor waved and asked if I was going anywhere special. Soon, I said. And for the first time, I meant it. When I returned home, the phone was quiet. Not peaceful, empty. The kind of silence that comes after people realize the power has shifted. That afternoon, a final text arrived. We boarded, but things are complicated. Call me when you can. I never did. Because I finally understood something that took me decades to learn. Love that only speaks when it needs something isn't love. It's a transaction. And I was done being the bank. I thought the hardest part was letting them face the consequences. I was wrong. The real transformation began with what I chose to do next. The refunds came back quietly. One notification at a time. No drama. No apologies attached. Just money returning to where it had always belonged. I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. That night, I opened a notebook I hadn't touched in years. The same one where I once wrote my husband's favorite songs, my grandchildren's birthdays, the things that mattered to me when no one else was looking. On the first clean page, I wrote a title. People who deserve to be seen. Then I began listing names. Women from church who had poured their lives into families that slowly forgot them. Widows who brought photographs to Bible study because no one asked about their husbands anymore. Caregivers who gave until their bodies hurt and their names disappeared from invitations. I made the first call carefully, unsure how it would sound. Hawaii, I said softly. For a week. No catch. There was silence on the other end. Then disbelief. Then tears. By the sixth call, my hands were shaking, not from nerves, but from something I hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose. I booked the trip under my own name. 1 villa. 6 women. 7 days. No matching shirts. No hashtags. No family-only captions. When we arrived, no one asked why they were there. They didn't need to. Gratitude filled every room before we unpacked a single bag. That first night, I placed my husband's photo at the center of the dining table. No one moved it. No one questioned it. We talked late into the night, not about who had forgotten us, but about who we used to be before the world taught us to shrink. Each evening, we lit a candle. Each woman said something she wished she'd been told years ago. You matter. You don't have to earn love. You were never invisible. On the final night, we walked the shoreline in silence. The moon turned every wrinkle into silver. The ocean whispered like it was keeping secrets just for us. I felt lighter than I had in decades. 3 days after I returned home, an email arrived from Nathan. Not an apology. An explanation. Stress. Miscommunication. Tanya didn't mean it that way. Then, at the end, the real reason for writing. Money. They wanted help covering what went wrong. I read it once. Then I closed the laptop. Some lessons don't need responses. Some boundaries speak louder when left untouched. I went to the kitchen, poured myself iced tea, and stood by the window. The wind brushed the chime my husband once hung for me. It rang softly, familiar, comforting. I smiled. I hadn't lost my family. I had lost the illusion that I had to disappear to keep one. And in its place, I found something better. Respect. Choice. Peace. Being forgotten didn't end my story. It finally gave me permission to write one where I was no longer begging to belong.